Last episode, I asked where exactly you should stand, given the 7, the receipts, the rupture and the kill conditions. This is the last episode, and it is that answer. Stand on the rock, not the scaffolding. Let me be exact about which is which, because the metaphor is worthless otherwise. Scaffolding is every practice you have ever been taught. The stand-up, the sprint, the ticket, the branching strategy, the test pyramid, the code review, the estimate. Episode 11 mapped 101 of them onto a single page, and every one was serving one of 7 problems underneath. 8 of that 101 are properly dead. Nobody mourns them, because the thing they were holding up is still standing. That is what scaffolding is for. It is not fake and it is not beneath you. You cannot put a building up without it. It simply was never the building. The rock is the 7 problems, the same 7 since episode 4. Somebody has to work out what is actually wanted. Some problems are hard in themselves and no tool makes them easy. Every decision sacrifices something. Building a thing is not the same as knowing it works. Anything useful gets changed. More than one person means coordination, and none of it matters unless the thing is worth building at all. 15 episodes went looking for a shift that broke one of those, and did not find one. Here is what this episode adds, and it is the part 1 have been saving. AI does not treat the 7 the same way. Sort them by what it actually does to each one and you get 3 bands, and the band tells you what to do. 3 of the 7 get promoted, which is to say intent, verification, and value judgment stop being part of the job and become the job. Intent, because when writing the code costs almost nothing, the scarce act is saying precisely what should exist. The gap moved out of the code and into the prompt and the spec, it did not close. Verification, because generation collapsed in price and checking did not, and that asymmetry is the entire economics of this era. And value judgment, because when building is cheap, choosing compounds. You can now build the wrong thing beautifully faster than anyone in history. One instruction for that band, and it is not subtle. Get deliberately, embarrassingly good at the 3 things that just became your whole job. Write a specification precise enough that a machine cannot satisfy it wrongly. Learn to build the oracle rather than the test, which means knowing what correct looks like independently of the thing you are checking. And make your no expensive to argue with, by attaching a number to it. 3 more get repriced, which means essential complexity, trade-offs and coordination are all still there, costing something different than they used to. Essential complexity did not move at all. A payroll system has exactly the number of legal edge cases it always had, and generated code reduces the typing rather than the domain. What changed is when you meet it, because the easy 80% now arrives in an afternoon and the hard 20 is waiting on the first day instead of the 90th. Trade-offs kept their structure and lost their price list. Code is cheap now and reading is expensive, so an instinct you formed when it was the other way round will quietly hand you the wrong answer. And coordination generalized, because Conway's law does not care whether the team is people or agents. The context window is bandwidth, the interfaces still have to be specified, and 2 agents will still cheerfully do the same job twice. One instruction for that band, and it is short. Do not trust a judgment you formed when code was expensive, reprice it on purpose. Then 2 things are under real stress, and I am not going to tidy them up in the last episode. The first is evolution, which is episode 8's asterisk. If regenerating something is cheaper than modifying it, does designing for change still pay? For a throwaway tool, honestly, perhaps not. For a system of record carrying 10 years of accumulated meaning, yes, and that meaning is precisely the thing you cannot regenerate. The second is not one of the 7 at all. It is the pipeline, the thing that produces people capable of doing the 7, and episode 14 watched it being taken apart. That is why the arithmetic is 3 and 3 and 2 rather than 8. Demand for the judgment is rising while the path that used to produce it is being dismantled, and a finale does not get to quietly solve that. The instruction that follows from being honest about it is this. If you are senior, the apprenticeship is now something you schedule on purpose, because it will not happen by proximity anymore. If you are early, get yourself into contact with the theory of a system that somebody actually depends on, by any route you can find. The 7 are learned by contact, they always were. So, the whole of it, in 2 sentences. Organize your career around the invariants and every shift is a promotion. Organize it around practices and every shift is an extinction event. 16 episodes ago, this series opened with a page from 1954 promising to virtually eliminate coding and debugging. I might be the one who looks like that in 20 years, and episode 15 is the list of ways you will know before I admit it. But being wrong in public is cheaper than being vague in public, so here is the unvague version, on the record. The scaffolding is going to change faster than it ever has, and the rock has not moved. Stand on it. That is all 16, with the 7 problems and the 3 bands written out in the description and every episode in one playlist, in order. Thank you for staying to the end of it.